Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial. In this video we're going to be working on exterior scene. It has been requested a lot on my YouTube channel and on my email. Some people told me that they want a scene that can be created using only 16 gig of RAM. So what I did is I took off one RAM that I have, because usually I have 32 gigs of RAM. Now I got 16 in order for us create this scene with the limit that we have, and mostly people coming like new to 3D rendering, they only got like 16 only. So in this video we're going to be working on this cabin. It's going to be in the woods, and I'm going to cover up how to generate basically the area, the forest, using Corona scatter, some fog, uh, lighting setup for the exterior, and the render setup for exterior. So let's get started. So for the terrain, I think I'm going to grab a plane. Excuse my voice because I don't know what happened. Okay, so let's start with a simple plane. Okay, scale it a little bit, and we're going to increase the segments. Press F4 to see it. Okay, I think something like this. All right, now I'm going to grab the model I have downloaded. It's called Abandoned House. I downloaded this from 3dsky.org. I'm going to leave the link down in the description. So here's our wooden house. Okay, oops. I'm going to rotate it to something like 90 degrees. All right, and now back to our plane. We're going to scale it to something like this. All right, let me grab a camera. And it's going to be something like this. Shift F to select the save frames, and we're going to select our renderer, set it to Corona, and make sure the output size is set to custom. I think it's going to be something like 1500 by 1500. Or actually, let's keep it simple, 1920 by 1080. Okay. All right, know what happened. Okay, so we have our view now. Maybe take it a little bit to the back. All right, now we're going to grab our plane to something like this. Maybe scale it a little further. All right, I think that's enough. Now let's Shift F again to remove the save frames. You can check it from here also. All right, now for this, we're going to the modify, and we're going to select FFD 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. All right, press the small arrow here and into this. Now control points. All right, now we're going to scale some things up and down in order to give our terrain this realistic feel. Right now, don't worry about this covering the building. We'll come back to it. Just generate our surrounding. Okay, maybe this. Let's set the view to clay in order to see at least, and maybe press F4 to show the wireframe. All right, let's make it a little bumpy from here. Take this up. Let me check. Okay. All right. Now Control to select different points and keep on pressing Shift and drag it a bit. Okay. Maybe give this a little bump here, something like, okay. Where's this one? Okay. All right. Now we have a random terrain, still not looking realistic. So now we're going to back to our plane and right click, convert it to editable poly. Okay, we're going to choose polygon, go to soft selection, select use soft selection. You can see that when you press, it will generate like a fall off to polygon. So the close polygon will get affected by this. And we're going to increase the fall off distance to something like maybe 54. Okay, now we're going to select the select object icon from here, select different polygons, press W to move, and we're going to play with the terrain. I like it this way because it will give me more control to my terrain rather than choosing a mask map that you can create it with the displace. But I will cover both ways in a different video pretty soon. But for now on, we're going to select this method. Okay, so for this one, it's going to be something like this. Now here, I'm going to lower this a little bit. Back to the select, W on your keyboard. Let's see, maybe a little bit higher here, higher in there, higher here too. Okay, let's give it a nice looking feel to it. Okay, we don't need this to show. All right. Maybe a little bit from here. And some from this side. Okay, now we have our terrain and we're going to add the final touches back to the plane. Let's wait for the save real quick. I don't know why the save is taking so long, or maybe I'm not used to 16 gig of RAM. Okay, so back to the modify, we're going to select noise and we're going to add noise in the Z. So you can see that the terrain is like doing shape like some sort of wave. So let's find a good spot. Maybe this will do. Okay, we have our terrain now selected. And for a quick save, we're going to call it exterior YT and save. All right, now you can see we have our terrain. Actually, I didn't check this one here. Okay, never mind. We don't need it. All right. Now let's set up our ground material. As I said, I'm going to leave everything down in the description, from the textures to the materials that we're going to use and the 3D models. All right, now that we have our house set, let's go to our material editor and create our ground texture, which is ready. I downloaded this from Polygon, and also I'm going to leave it in the description. Okay, so it's called Ground Forest 003 on their website. All right, now to grab this polygon material, there's a very easy way. Instead of grabbing every texture and setting it up in your material editor, there's a script you can download from the Polygon website. It will help you uh, get your material into your material editor easily. So we're going to select the script, which also I'm going to leave it in the description. We're going to select our folder where the material is. So 3D, okay, it was exterior. Was it exterior? Yeah, exterior. And ground floor 003. You can hit OK. You can see that your material is here selected and it's on 3K resolution. And we're going to hit load material. Okay, you can see that material was loaded into your material editor. You can scroll down until you see a temporary library and drag it into your material viewport. All right, now let's remove our clay into default shading, and we're going to drag this into our plane and select show shaded into viewport. All right, now we can see that our material has been selected, but it needs a UVW. So into our modify panel, we're going to select UVW map. Okay, so here's our UVW map. I'm going to select box and let's set it to something like 50 by 50 by 50. Okay, let me check. I think it's looking perfect. Yep. Maybe let's try to scale it a little bit here, maybe to something like 80. Okay, so let's try 80 by 80. All right, it's looking pretty fine, I guess. Now into the Relink Bitmap script. I always have this in my description. We're going to select our path where we can get the texture of the house. So mine is into the downloads and select Relink. You can see now that our house have the materials, but it won't show in the viewport. We can see it in the render. And but maybe I can show it here. No, it's not showing. Okay. Now let's select rendering Corona Interactive so we can see the house and the light that I'm going to set up now. And it's going to be a Corona sun at first. So Corona sun. And I think I need to light something from here. Let's stop this one. Select it as Corona Camera 1. Select Corona Camera 1 until you see this brown border. If I select the other Corona Camera 1, you can see the border is here, but we need it up. So we're selecting this one and we're going to lock it and set it to interactive viewport. Now you can see that whenever I move my viewport down there, this has been locked. Okay, so for Corona Sun, I'm going to use a value of maybe 0.3. Okay, we don't need it too bright. And the size maybe something like 5 because we don't need sharp shadows. So I think Corona Sun is good. But let's create our sky. So into your render setup, select scene, and scroll down to use Corona. Press on the none, bitmap, and let's select an HDRI. You can select any HDRI, or you can select the one that I'm going to use. I'll leave it in the description. Okay, so let's try. I think this one is good. Let me try it. Okay. Back to our material editor. Let me delete everything here that we don't need. Okay. We're going to drag our HDRI into instance. Select a color correction from the maps. Assign it and assign the color correction into our 3D scene environment. Okay, now we can into our color correction, go to advanced, and into gain. Let's maybe decrease or increase the brightness a bit. Let's try 120, 140, let's say. Back to 120. I think 120 is good, but I'm not sure about this HDRI. Maybe I'm gonna change it to I don't know, Venus Stone. Let's try this one a little bit. Okay, and into the HDRI, let's change the tiling size to 3 by 3, for example. Okay, but this one needs a lower value, something like 80. Okay, let's try 50 a bit. Okay, so I think 50 is great. Okay, that's all for the HDRI. Now into our camera setting, let's decrease the exposure to minus 0.5, the highlight compress to something like 2, contrast to 2, or actually let's keep the exposure or give it a value of 1 in order to see better. The sharpening will be the blur of 0. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the environment setup for now. Okay, quick save. Always save your scene in order to not lose anything. Alright, now we have our ground material selected. Now let's mess with the ground material. Okay, Windows key and right arrow to assign this into our right. If we go to our ground material, you can see that we have displacement here with a max level of 2.54 and water level disabled. So if I increase the max level to something like, let's say 10, you can see that the displacement of the ground is going crazy, and we don't need that because it won't create like realistic ground, because if we zoom in sometimes you can see that there's like sharp edges. But for this one it's going to be something of value of like 4 or 3.5, which I find pretty reasonable. Let's try 4. Yeah, we can find it like pretty reasonable for the ground. And if your texture has like water puddles in it, you can select water level, and you can see that there's some water showing on the textures, but it's a high value. Let's keep it to something like 0.1. Let's try 0.2. Yeah, I think yeah, 0.25. Yeah, I think 0.25 is good. You can see that there's some water puddles showing in the background. We don't need it like it's a winter scene. We just need like uh, a few showers happened before. So that's it for our ground material. Now back to our sun. Maybe adjust it to slightly here. We're gonna get back to our sun. Now let's leave it. Okay. So now into our grass and stones. It's pretty easy. We're going to get to this icon and scroll down until we see Corona. And there's something called C scatter, which stands to Corona scatter. We're going to create 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter size, just create 3. Okay, so here's the 3 Corona scatters. Let's disable the grid by pressing G. Okay, now into Corona scatter 1. We're going to the modify and we're going to name it, let's name this grass 1. Okay, you can see that the name has appeared here into grass 1. We're going to grab some grass material or some shrubs. Maybe this one will do. Okay, so yellow shrub. Here it is. I'm going to grab it and into our viewport. We're going to select it. All right, but I think it's pretty big. We're going to scale it down a little bit and copy it into 3 as copy. Make sure it's set as copy so we can have different variations. All right, now grab the second one, scale this too, and scale this again. Okay, you can see we have now the large one into the smaller one, and we're going to select the material. Okay, let's wait. We have them selected, and now into our Corona converter to convert them into Corona materials. All right, now into our grass Corona scatter, we're going back to our modify, and you can see here there's distribute on objects. We're going to select plus icon here and select our plane. You can see that our plane is selected. This means that these objects are going to be scattered all over this plane. Okay, but before we do, let's get our big viewport. I don't need the grass to be scattered here next to my house. I need some spacing between the grass, and I don't need the grass to be covering up my door. So back to my plane and modify, I'm going to grab something called Vertex Paint. Okay, so you can see here's Vertex Paint, and there's this toolbar appearing. I'm going to select the Vertex Color display in this one, grab the brush, increase the size of it. You can see that there's a small brush right now. Okay, maybe set it to something like, yeah, oops, that's something like, let's say 100. Okay, and we're going to paint like a trail here. All right, maybe the trail leads to here too. I don't need the grass to appear in this area, nor this area, and some parts from here too, maybe, to make it more realistic. All right. Yep. Some areas from here too. Okay, but make sure the front door is painted really good. Okay, Now let's close this one and back to our corona scatter. Okay, as we said, we have our plane set to distribute on objects, and now we're going to select our objects that are going to be instanced. So again, to the plus icon and to the instance object, and select 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, now we see that we have this crazy wire boxes all over the place, and we don't need this. So if you go here into my viewport, you can see that the grass is scattering all over. And all you have to do is, let's scroll down into our count, and we're going to set the count distribution to something like 30, because I don't need this much of grass. Maybe that's too low. 300, let's say. Okay, so 300 seems good, but you can see that the scale is very large. And all you have to do is here into the scale, let's select the scale, something from 20 into 100 or 20 into 80 maybe. Okay, let's select the rotation from the z-axis so we can make different varieties, so they won't be like rotating into the same angle. We're going to give it some rotation degrees from 90 to 180, let's say. Okay, now you can see that some are pointing to the other direction and some to the other way. And also we're going to make sure that every stepping distance is set to the z, so there won't be any floating objects. Maybe scale it a little bit more, something to let's say 50. Okay, we don't need this much of shrubs. All right, let's try count to 500 maybe. All right, and now into our material editor, we're going to select our vertex color. And this vertex color is going to go into our random distribution into the map. Okay, now set it as instance. You can see that there's no shrubs or bushes going into the road and the spots that I have painted with my vertex brush. Okay, so that will be for step 1. Now, oops, now we need some grass material. Let me check my download. Let's see, grass. Okay, I have this grass here. I also downloaded this from 3D Sky. You can see there's different types of it, the smaller one, the bigger one, and the medium sized. And before we do this, as always, let's save. Okay, we have our grass, and after our grass we're going to be creating some really nice looking fog. Okay, now back to our corona scatter 2. We're going to name this grass main. Okay, so this is going to be the main grass on the plane. Right, let's select this and into our viewport, set it as merge. I don't need this. Let's delete it and delete the plane. We can see that we have our grass here. We're going to grab them next to our corona scatter, and into distribute object we're going plus and select the plane again, And the instant objects, we're going to select our grass variety 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, let's make sure that we have their bitmaps ready. So we're going to relink them. Okay, no need to convert them because they are Corona material. Okay, now back to our count. We need this to be scattered a lot. So let's increase the count to something like 100,000 and hit OK. Alright, let's give it a minute because this is huge and I'm only using like 16 gig of RAM. Okay, you can see that we have our grass showing now, and it's a bit too much. Let's try maybe 50 thou. Alright, and let me increase the rendering speed. So into performance. Oh, it's already set. Let's select new light solver, which helps us with the cleaning the light, and set our secondary solvers into path tracing because this is an exterior render. Okay, and the noise amount, we're going to set it to fast preview and video. Alright, so everything is done here. Okay, now we have the grass scatter a lot. We're going to set spacing between them, but the spacing will be something like 40. Okay, let's disable back the fast preview because I can see clearly. Okay, I think 40 is good. It's looking pretty good. There's grass everywhere, and there's some variation into the yellow shrubs that we did before, but now we need variation into this. So rotation again, 90 to 180, and the stepping angle is going to be Z for this too. The scale is going to be something from 20 to into 100, and again the vertex color is going into this map too as instance. Okay, again you can see now that our path has no grass on it. Our spots also here, the black spot here, and the other spots that I have made. Okay, maybe the spacing is a little too much. Uh, let's try 30. Yep, 30 seems pretty good, but maybe we'll change it a little bit more later on. Okay, so now save as, save again, and select yes. So far the render is looking good, but now we need some fog. Or actually, let's finish with the rocks before going into the fog. So we have our Corona Scatter 3. We're going to name it Stones. And back to our folder here. I have 3D scanned rocks downloaded also from 3dsky.org. Okay, so we're going to merge the file. And we have an error, and you will be getting this error too if you're going to use the same rock. So the error says a normal map appears to be using input image with incorrect gamma. This can cause shading artifacts. So it's an easy step into our material editor. I'm going to grab uh, the picker here, and we're going to select the material on our rock. So into Corona material, we see that we have Corona normal. We're going to swap red and green, and that's going to be it. Sometimes it won't be working. I don't know if it's a bug. Usually we're going to set this add gamma to input, but I don't know why it's not working. Maybe because we have the strength a lot. So let's use it to something like 1, and maybe this goes. Okay, into our rock, we're going to create different copies. Yeah, here it is, but that's okay. Copy it to something like 3, and again scale, and scale the last one to a smaller one. Stones are going to be distributed on our plane, and the instant object 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, you can see this crazy scene. And this one would be a spacing of 100 because we don't need a lot of rocks, and the count will be really low. Let's try 100 on this one, maybe a little more. Let's maybe 50 or 20 because I don't need a lot of rocks in the scene. So yeah, 20 seems to be pretty good. Into our Z rotation 90 to 180. And the reason why I'm using Corona Scatter and not Forest Pack, it's in order for you to see how we can use Corona Scatter, and sometimes it's very useful in big scenes and in scenes where you want to like work on something specific. So yeah, for the rocks, it seems pretty good. And again, our vertex color into the distribution map as instance. Okay, now we have a few rocks showing in the scene, which seems pretty awesome. And let's connect their maps. Okay, now let's stop this and again save every step of the way. All right, now let's select this one here and let's create a fog. So I need like smaller fogs coming from this way and into the upper hill. It's like this fog you see in the morning in the forest or horror movies. Okay, so it's a pretty step and pretty simple. So we're going to grab box. I'm going to create the box something like this, and we're going to move it into our scene. Select the F button and let's scale it a little bit down. Okay, now we have to go to the modify, crease the segments from all angles. Okay, press F4 to show the segments. Okay, into our modify list, we're going to select FFD 4 times 4 times 4, small arrow here, control points. I'm just going to like give it some crazy shape, something like this, something like this. I don't know, some weird stuff. Doesn't really matter, but it will give a nice variety in the fog. Okay, so I think this is enough. Now into our noise, we're going to give it a noise into Z, into Y, to X, something crazy. Not this much. Yeah, like this. Okay, and we're going to select fractal here and increase the roughness maybe a little bit like this. Scale it until it looks like it's smoke. All right. Now we're going to scale it down, something like this. And let's take it a little bit down and rotate it as the fog is like going downhill. Yeah, this seems to be looking pretty good. Maybe rotate it this way. Now into our material, we're going to need the Corona volume material, and we're going to assign it. Let's get back into our interactive Windows key, right arrow as always. We're going to need the scattering color to something like white. Let's increase the distance. You can see now it's looking like, I don't know, maybe foam. Okay, let's increase the directionality. And let's play with the distance now until it looks like it's fog. The higher the number, the more it fades. Absorption color is going to be white too, something like this. Okay, now you can see it's looking like smoke. Uh, let's try a distance of something like 2000. Yeah, starting to look like smoke. No, we don't need a single bounce. Okay, so for this one, it's going to be a value of 1000. All right, let's copy this as a copy and take it upwards and rotate it the other way, something like this. Maybe, yeah, something like this. I don't need it to be looking a lot. Let's copy this. So keep on holding shift, left click, oops, keep on holding shift, left click, and rename it something like fog 2 and assign it to the one above. And for this one, let's decrease the distance to make it a little bit harder. So yeah, this one is looking pretty good. And let's copy this one in front of the house to here maybe. Oops. As copy, I'm going to take it a little bit down and rotate it to something like, yeah, something like this. And back to our material editor, shift, keep on holding with the left click and name it fog 3, assign it to this one, and let's increase the absorption a little bit. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. Let's decrease, I mean the color, or actually let's make it super white. Yeah. Oh, I don't know why I was changing the whole time this one up. Oops. Like what's happening? Okay, back to this one here. Let me grab this and assign it. All right. I think this one is pretty good here. I don't need it to be strong. I just need like a this haze coming from the fog. Yeah, so I guess this value is pretty good. 200 something, 217. Okay, so now we have our fog ready. And into our save. This tutorial is going to be a little bit long, but I hope you'll find it useful. Now I need trees covering up the background so it doesn't look like this house is floating. I'm going to grab a plane and remove the segments into one by one. Let's make that plane smaller. Okay, let's convert it to editable poly. Let's connect these. Get the connected one here. Okay, shift hold and drag, copy those two. Okay, vertex, edge, and copy it. Okay, now I have this plane to create some trees. Let's move it higher up. You can see it from here, so let's take it down a little bit. All right. Now we need another corona scatter for the trees. So corona scatter, corona scatter here. And we're going to name this trees. Oops. Trees. Okay. And we're going to select this plane here. Plus. And let me see what trees I have. I really forgot. Exterior. Exterior models. Yeah, I have those trees that I've purchased a long time ago. I don't know what trees I'm going to be using, but this one seems good. Oh, I have the preview. Okay, you can use any trees or you can purchase these. If I find the link, I'll drop it down in the description. But I think for this one, I'm going to be using those maybe. Yeah, those seems good. PKL at least. Okay, so where is it? That's it? Oh, that's it. Yeah, let's try it. So Corona, merge file. Okay. They're a bit large. Scale them and assign their materials. Alright. Now into our Corona scatter. We already selected this plane. Now we're going to select the trees. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, that's crazy. Let's change the spacing. Okay, so the spacing may be something like 40. I'm going to remove the locked view so I can see clearly now. So disable the lock. Okay. And let's look here. Alright, maybe 40 is a little bit, maybe 20. Let's go back to my camera here and select a different view, different output size. Back to custom. Let's set it to 2000 by 2000. Okay. So now I have my trees. Let's make sure everything is on the Z and nothing is floating. Okay, scale from 80 this time to 100. Rotation from 90 to 180. You can see how some trees have changed direction. Okay, back to the spacing. I think I'm going to set it to something like that's a lot. Maybe 20. Oops, 25. 28. 21. 24. Okay, so yeah, I think 24 is good for the background. Now we're going to set some trees into our normal plane. So again, some corona scatter here, a smaller one, instant to the plane, distribute on it. Oops. So distribute on plane and select the small tree here and this one. Alright, now enable spacing for real. Okay, make sure everything is on the Z. Scale, let's scale them a lot. 20 to 80 maybe. Back to our vertex color. Where is it? Into the distribution map. As instance. And the count, decrease them to 100. I don't need a lot of trees here. Hmm, 50 maybe. Okay. Rotation 90 to 180. Okay, I think I have a nice view here, but still the spacing need a little bit of. Let's set it to 100 even. Yeah, this seems pretty good. I love it like this. Seems pretty nice. I just need the fog up here to cover up this area and give it like a stronger fog material. So let me assign it back. Set this to full white. Increase the distance. This one here. Oops. Alright, now I have my fog up there. Let me try and render it real quick. So I hope guys you're enjoying this video so far. I know it's a lot of information, but it's pretty useful to cover up different different things in Corona, like Corona scatter, how to scatter them, how to give them a realistic look, how to create the fog, and how to set up the lighting for an exterior scene, and also how to how to set the correct render setup for an exterior scene. As you can see here that I have my fog looking pretty good. And again, I'm not used to 16 gig of RAM, so I think this will need some time to render. But I can see that it's looking pretty good and the trees are scattering pretty well, giving it like a really nice looking vibe to the forest. Okay, so let's cancel this. Seems pretty good. Back to our viewport here. Actually, I'm going to stop this, set it to Corona. I'm going to the plus icon here, configure viewports, layout, set the layout to Corona Camera 1, Corona Camera 1, so I can see better in the renders. Okay, so we still have like a few touches to do, and it's time for a save so we can't lose anything, and we won't. All right, now that we have our fog up there, some small fog here and one in the middle. I need this fog too to cover up this part here. So T, copy it, rotate it, something like this into the trees. Okay, seems pretty good. Now let me try and change the the sun so we can give it like a more realistic look. I'm going to log this one again, back to here, Corona Interactive. Okay, note that I'm using Corona Renderer 3, which is my favorite so far, but I'm going to switch to Corona 4 uh, pretty soon. Okay, so let's give it like it's a morning vibe, but this time I'll need the fast preview, the one that uses the NVIDIA GPU. So performance, fast preview. It's going to be blurry, but at least I can know where the sun is uh, heading faster. So this seems pretty good. Let me stop it and start it again with the NVIDIA denoiser. Okay, I think this sun is looking pretty good. I don't think I need some adjustments. Let me try maybe lower, taking it a little bit higher, but decrease the intensity to 0.1 and the size to something like 12. I don't need sharp shadows. So yeah, this sun is looking pretty good. Let's take it a little bit there. No. Yeah, this is better this way. And a little bit higher. Let me decrease the output size because it's too much. Let's set it to a fast preview number, a really low one, 1000 to 1000. Yes. Okay, so I think the sun is looking awesome this way, and the trees are looking good. I just need something now for the front view. We have the background, we have the middle view, and we just need something for the front view. And you can see how NVIDIA denoiser have like blurred everything out, but I can see at least the light, how it's heading. And it's only available in Corona Render 3 and 4. There's also a new CPU denoiser in Corona Render 4, which is pretty good if you're like if you don't have a supported GPU. So now I'm going to add some details. It's going to be a wind turbine, maybe add it to the row up. Let's try and see how it will look. Okay, let's group it. Wind T. Let's set it somewhere here and maybe rotate it to something like a 45 or so. Oops. So it will look like it's an old place. Okay. Let me grab the material so I can see it at least. Okay, stop. Start it again so we can see the materials. Yep, here it is. And seems pretty nice here, but it's overlapping a tree, I guess. So let me try and see it better. No, it's next to a tree. Let's bring it to the spot here where I set my vertex color. Okay, I don't need it to show a lot. I just need to set something in the background here. Okay, let's try and render now. All right, seems pretty fine and looking good, I guess. And now for the final part, it's going to be a stump. I also downloaded this from 3D Sky. All right, so stump, and let's set it somewhere here. All right, and grab the materials too. So downloads. All right. Maybe rotate it a little bit. Try it this way. Yeah, things are looking pretty good. All right, let me convert everything in the scene. Start. Let me check the material of the stump. Everything is looking pretty good. Okay. Seems pretty nice. Okay. I think everything is good. Maybe add one little more detail. What's this? Yeah, maybe this one would do. Let's add a trunk. Let's convert this to clay so we can see better. Alright, grab the materials. Whoop. Maybe it needs converting so we can see it. It's a V-Ray material. Yeah, let's stop. Now it will show. Yep, here it is. Alright. This is looking pretty good. For this fog, I'm going to make it a little bit stronger. So again, corner of the Relink material, assign it, change the color to white, full white. Okay, and increase the distance. Okay, so now this is looking pretty nice. Okay, I think this is enough. Maybe try it this way. And the trees and the corner scatter in the background. Let's set the spacing to 22. Yep. All right. I think this is looking pretty nice here. So back to default shading. Let me just set this here. And into our trees on them. Okay, maybe take this one back. I don't know. It's messing with my front view. I think this one seems pretty good like this. Yeah. All right. I can say officially that this is done. Now into our settings. Back to our performance tab. Let's check everything is pretty good. Yeah, everything's good. White balance is going to be 7500. We need it to be warmer because it's a morning. The sharpness is good. The bloom, we're going to set it later on. The glare is going to be 0, but the bloom is going to be something like 5 maybe. And the denoising mode, it's going to be high quality. Okay, let's see, everything is set. Noise level limit, it's going to be 2. We don't need noise in the scene. All right, so now back to, actually this one is pretty good, the size. Okay, everything is looking pretty good. We can use filter later on. We don't need them right now. So yeah, we're going to leave this for the end. Now we can officially render. And after rendering, I'm going to get back into some Photoshop edits, some editing in the lights, the environment, and the filtering so we can get our final result. All right, now I'm going to give it a test render, and if it's looking good, I'm going to continue the render until it finishes, and if there's something that needs to be uh, corrected, I'm going to also show you how to correct it. So for now, let's leave this into the render and see you guys in a few. Alright guys, now we have our scene ready. It's on 1000 by 1000 resolution and it looks pretty amazing. Now let's see if we can make some small adjustments to it. Maybe let's try with the exposure, 1.8 maybe. Highlight compress, let's try 5. Let's change the white balance, maybe try something like 8000 or 10,000. I think 8000 is a good spot. Okay, for the contrast, maybe 3.5, I think it's good. Saturation, we don't need that. Let's see the filmic highlights if it changes. So filmic highlights, it's not that big of a deal. Let's first save the picture as diff format. Where is it? Okay, name it forest. Okay, now let's continue. Maybe the curve editor, let's reset it. Grab this spot here. Okay, and increase the light a bit. Something like this. Okay, so now let's keep it this way. Okay, so for this, let's give it a value of 1 and check some filters. Let's try to find something pretty sweet. Oh, this one seems pretty nice. Let's try it with a value of something like 0.5 or 0.3, 0.3. Okay, but maybe increase the contrast now to 4. Yeah, this one looks pretty good. Let's try to disable this a bit. I don't think it will take effect because we don't have lights showing in the scene, but I'll keep it to 10. And for the sharpening, let's leave it to the same amount. Okay, let's try and resave this one. Let's call it final and save it. Okay, now final, drag it to Photoshop. Okay, let's wait for Photoshop now. Alright, into Photoshop, let's go to filter. First, let's copy this by Ctrl J. Filter, camera raw filter. And let's try some settings. Maybe give it a cool look. Higher exposure, higher contrast, lower the highlights, increase the shadows, increase the white, increase the black, increase the clarity. Let's remove some dehaze from the scene. Let's tweak the vibrance a little bit. We don't need some really high green. Okay, sorry about this. Okay, and I think it's pretty cool like this. Yeah, this one seems pretty good. I don't think we need filters. I think the picture looks pretty amazing this way. Okay, so here it is. That's all for the exterior scene. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So to sum it up, we covered how to create a terrain, how to set the material using polygon material converter script. We learned how to scatter some objects, including grass, stones, and some bushes. And we learned how to create a fog, like the one we can see in the background. And we've learned how to set some realistic lighting in our scene, including Corona Sun and the HDRI with the color correction. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and find it useful. If you did, please make sure to like, subscribe if you're new here to the channel, and comment down below if you have another request. Until next time, stay safe and thank you for watching.